Organizing Committee. I take great pleasure to welcome you all for this new series of V Talks organized by Vidyalankar Educational Trust. Now, I request Dr. Nayana Tadwalkar ma'am, convener, Creative and Cultural Hub at Vidyalankar Jnanpith Trust, who is herself an art historian and a museologist, to say a few words about our guest, Advocate Rajan Jaikar sir.
Thanks, Mitali. Good evening, everyone. Hope everybody is fine and safe. Last week, when Dr. Amit called me suggesting that why don't we start the season 2 of We Talks on International Museum Day on the 18th. And I thought it was a wonderful idea. And the first name that came to my mind as a guest speaker was Mr. Rajan Jaikar. I immediately called him, and he too instantly, at such a short notice, he accepted our invitation. Now, Mr. Jaikar, I would say he's a go-to person for everything Bombay. He's a true custodian of heritage. I have consulted him various times with respect to my research and my museum projects, and he has always been very helpful, very eager to share his knowledge and experience with all, yeah, I'm sure he does that with all young researchers and historians. I've also had the privilege to do a museum tour with him, that is the High Court building and Bombay High Court Museum, which was a very enriching and memorable experience. So yeah, and one more point I just came to know when we were discussing about this talk. We both actually have a common mentor with respect to museums and exhibitions. That is late Padma Shri Dr. Sadashiv Gorakshakar. Of course, no doubt, Mr. Jaikar knows him. He knew him very, very well, and he had the privilege of working with him on the field. Something that I missed because when I joined the field, he had already retired from the Prince of Wales Museum as the director. But I got some, theoretical training from him, whereas Mr. Jaikar has actually worked with him on the field. And yeah, so we really look forward to this session, Mr. Jaikar. It's an honor to have you with us here today. Over to you, Mitali.
Thank you, Dr. Naina Tadwalkar ma'am, for such a warm introduction about our guest. Advocate Rajan Jaikar hails from a family of lawyers. Living in his lavish antique field 90-year-old home at the Opera House, he still tries to maintain the customs as his father, the late solicitor Motiram Jaikar, practiced them. An ardent art collector, he has traveled the world in pursuit of his passion for art and history. He says that he has been a collector of artifacts since his childhood. An advocate and solicitor by profession, Mr. Rajan Jaikar is one of the foremost collectors of antiquities, artifacts, and memorabilia in India today, and is a treasure chest of interesting historical knowledge. He has curated several exhibitions, is a frequent lecturer at many collector and historical societies, represents India at international philatelic exhibitions meets, and is a fascinating repository of stories about people and things. In this talk, he will share his experience of curating exhibitions to setting up museums. Here, I would also like to mention a very unique practice that is being carried out at his residence during the Ganpati festival. Advocate Jaikar doesn't believe in worshipping idols. So, a Ganesha shape is made out of rice grains every year to worship, and the decorations for these celebrations are more than 100 years old, as are most of the things in the Jaikar's residence. An exclusive collection of the antiquities by him is on display online. You can browse the cards and artifacts from this awesome collection by visiting www.rajanjaikarcollections.com. This collection includes old postcards from Bombay, USA, British, and India that are reminiscent of the glorious past that can be replicated on the medium of your choice, be it plates, mugs, posters, and so on. All these artifacts created by this man of Renaissance are more than 100 years old. That reflects the authentic flavor of its existence. They offer a glance into the heritage of India, Bombay, USA, Great Britain, and a host of rich heritage countries. Old postcards often show how life used to be a century ago. It surely helps in recording events of the times gone by with a full insight into the scenes as they occurred then. Now, I would like to request Advocate Rajan Jaikar sir to take over this session.
Yeah. Yeah. Good evening, everybody. Uh, Thanks, Mitali, for the long introduction. In the course of my life, there have been some events because of which a pure collector suddenly became a curator and set up a museum. Yeah, can I see the slides, please?
Yes, I'll start sharing.
Yeah. How do I remove this message of people entering the waiting room constantly showing on my screen?
Just minimize it, sir.
Okay. Yes.
And you can hide it. Yeah.
The next slide, please. Now again, I'm getting that message on my screen. Can we remove this, please? I can't see the screen. Yeah. Again, what has to be done here for removing this?
Just sir, minimize करा तुम्ही वरनं. So एक फक्त एक पट्टी राहील तिथे. Yes, you can minimize that.
I can't see any patti. What is it?
Do you see the
Sir,
slide?
help करा.
Do you all see the PPT?
Yeah, I can see the PPT just about this.
I think we should wait a couple of minutes. Just people are still entering. Should we wait?
No, what I will request in the meeting itself, he has to do the modification auto submission, because what has happened, the settings of the meetings are such a way that only after host permit the entry will be allowed. So probably he will have to go to the meeting, go to edit, and then allow the permission automatically.
I can permit. I can permit. Sunil, hello, there are a couple of hosts. Sir, तुम्ही काय करा?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
तुम्ही सुनील ते करून घे जरा. And he can drag that thing downstairs below it, the entire thing, so it will not disturb him. When Killer Sunil, you have done it.
Auto admit.
Please check now.
Yeah. Yeah. Now I'm going to spend again the slide has come.
Please check now, sir.
सुनील
Please check, ma'am.
तू मिस्टर जयकरांना होस्ट म्हणून काढून टाक सो
हो
दॅट
केलं मॅम. ते काढून टाकलं.
ओके नाही येत आहे पण अजून ओके ओके शुड वी स्टार्ट
Hello.
Yes. It's still
Can we
coming.
start, sir?
I can start, but
नहीं येणार आता, sir.
what I'll do is I'm going to spend some time on this slide. By the time you disconnect this, I can speak on this slide, the one which is there with Gorakshakar.
Sir, एक minute. Just give me time. Just give me time, sir.
Sure.
No, sir. You. Hello.
Yes.
Hello.
Yes.
Hello. Minimize. Hello. Beautiful share करून टाक.
हो आता ठीक आहे नाउ इट इज ओके
Okay. I hope there is no disturbance. Okay.
Yeah.
I will spend some time on the slide. Yeah. This is Sadashiv Gorakshakar with me at at our Supreme Court exhibition. Gorakshakar happens to be my relative from my wife's side. He was aware that I was a collector of so many things, and I was aware that he was a director of the then Prince of Wales Museum. But we never had a chance to interact or do anything. I came to know him very closely in around 1978. And he came to my house, he saw my collection. I went to museum, attended quite a few museum exhibitions, but it never struck me that I should be doing something like curating an exhibition or showing my exhibits. Ultimately, came. And that was, again, and that was in 1988, where I read an advertisement in Times of India saying that High Court was celebrating 125 years, and hence they were holding an exhibition. And the advertisement was that anybody has got any artifacts, they may contact the person concerned. I went to that person and I asked him, who is the person in charge of this? So he said, Mr. Justice Sujata Manohar. Now this is another person because of whom I transited from a collector to a curator. I went and met her and I told her that I have got some artifacts which I will show, but I would like to join the team itself, as I knew that Gorakshakar was going to be the main curator. So she said, wonderful. She said, we have told so many lawyers, nobody's interested, nobody says we don't know anything. And that's how my association with Gorakshakar started for that exhibition. Now, Gorakshakar is a person to whom, if you give him artifacts, he will do everything. Now, what are the artifacts which are available in the High Court? So I had to then sift through and find out. And I was amazed to see some of the artifacts which, unfortunately, a common man would never get to see. So this exhibition was a good chance for the people to see it. And those items I have put on the PPT, which will follow. Next, please. Next slide, please. Next slide. Yes. Now, not many people are aware that before the High Court, there were so many earlier courts in Bombay. And one of the court was Mayor's Court, which was there from 1728 to 1798. And this is the image of that particular Mayor's Court charter. The original charter is in Madras High Court. But since it was a common charter for Madras, Calcutta, and Bombay, it was relevant for our exhibition. Next, please. Next slide. Yes, this after the Mayor's Court was abolished in 1798, there was Recorder's Court. That was the court for the first time when, after that court was established in Bombay, the people, the solicitors and barristers from England started coming here to set up their shop and start. So that was also a very relevant document. Unfortunately, the original still continues to be in Madras High Court, but this is the exact image of that particular charter. Now, this is the charter of King George III. Next slide, please. Yes, this is the charter of the Supreme Court of Bombay. Luckily, the original charter is there in the High Court. Incidentally, these charters are all on parchment paper, running into almost 35 to 40 pages and of the size of about 2 feet by 1 feet every page. And in the entire charter, there is not a single mistake. It's all handwritten. So that was another charter which saw the light of the day because of this exhibition. Next. And this is a charter of the before that, slide before. Yeah, this is a charter of the Bombay High Court. It's like a birth certificate of 1862 by Queen Victoria, setting up the High Court in Bombay. So these were the charters which were there in the High Court custody, which for the first time saw the light of the day. Next, please. Yeah. Now you'll be surprised that there are quite a few barristers' certificates which are still there in the High Court. I'll tell you how they came. Because whenever a person did his bar at law in England and he came back to practice in Bombay, he has to submit his original certificate and also make an application that he may be admitted as an advocate. Now, after that person either retires or dies, some of these original certificates have not been claimed by their successors, and that is how we have got very interesting barrister certificate of Mr. Chagla, who was one of the best Chief Justice that Bombay has ever produced. But he was also a lawyer practicing here. So this is his certificate. Next, please. This is a original certificate, barrister certificate of Muhammad Jinnah. So when we had shown it in the exhibition, we were wondering whether Pakistan will ever make a demand for this because the original is here. And Jinnah's office that time, when he made an application from being joined as an advocate, his office address was at Kalba Devi. And he was a typical Bombay man. Almost till the independence, he lived in Bombay. Partly he used to be in practice and partly in politics. And after about 40s, of course, he was completely in politics completely. So this is Barrister Jinnah's certificate. Apart from that, we have got certificates of barrister certificates of Mahatma Gandhi, Vallabhbhai Patel, Vittalbhai Patel, B.R. Ambedkar, almost all our national leaders were barristers from England. And all those certificates we showed in that exhibition. Next, please. Now, this is a portrait of Lokmanya Tilak, which is there in the central courtroom where the exhibition was held. Now, central courtroom is a ceremonial courtroom. It looks like a palace, as we'll see some of the images of that. In 1908, when this was the second sedition trial of Lokmanya Tilak, you will wonder that not only British, but Indian barrister was willing to appear for Lokmanya Tilak. It is a misnomer that Muhammad Ali Jinnah appeared for him. In fact, he appeared in his first sedition trial only for bail. When the matter came of final hearing in 1908, there was no lawyer who was privileged to appear. Incidentally, Lokmanya Tilak himself was a lawyer but not an advocate, because he had done his law but he'd never practiced. So he appeared in person. And this is a portrait of him appearing in person in the central courtroom where this particular portrait is hanging. So these are some of the gems which were there in our custody. And not only that, quite a few lawyers also contributed some of the personal effects of their own parent, of their father or grandfather, like Justice Mulla's original Privy Councillor's cap, original sword that was there in the exhibition. Then Little and Company, which is a very old solicitor firm, which were the solicitors to East India Company. They got a brass buckle which says solicitors to East India Company. So all these artifacts were shown. While doing this particular exhibition, I learned that you must have a proper inventory. All the exhibits which were collected either from the High Court archive or from outside were kept in one place. They were properly, then some of the documents, etc., required a little bit of restoration, which was done by him in the museum archive, in the museum conservation laboratory. And all the artifacts were arranged in a very systematic manner, where it's like a running story. And that's how the exhibition took place. So that was my first experience of working with Gorakshakar very meticulously. Next. The second experience was, now that we both had established as having made a fantastic exhibition in Bombay, when Supreme Court was to celebrate its 50 years in the year 2000, it so happened that even by that time, Justice Sujata Manohar was already elevated in the Supreme Court, and therefore she was again in charge of the exhibition committee. So she invited the team from Bombay, that is myself and Gorakshakar, and we went there. Now, doing an exhibition for a High Court and doing it for Supreme Court is a great difference. While doing the Supreme Court exhibition, Gorakshakar said that we will divide this exhibition into two parts, to which we will come. Here is the opening ceremony of the exhibition. In the picture on your left, you will see that on the left is Ashok Desai, senior advocate who just expired a couple of months ago. Then the Chief Justice of India, Dr. Anand, who inaugurated the exhibition. Next to that is Justice S.P. Bharucha, the next senior judge. And next to that, which is back, is Mr. Venugopal, who is the present Attorney General. So this is a scene, and between Justice Bharucha and Justice Dr. Anand, you will see a little hint of my being there at the back. On the right-hand side, after the exhibition was opened, me and Gorakshakar, we both took them through the exhibition. In the forefront on the left-hand side, you see, is the model of the High Court. Now, the idea was that since this exhibition was in the National Museum in New Delhi, people visiting that exhibition will not know how the different high courts all over the country, which are pre-independence high courts, would look. So all those high courts were told that you make your high court model and send it. Now, this colossus of a model, which was sent by the Bombay High Court, was really a hit. The PWD prepared a fantastic model of the High Court. And in this picture, you are seeing that the Chief Justice as well as other dignitaries are having a look at the model. Next, please. Now, Gorakshakar said that the scope of this exhibition is too large. We must divide this exhibition into two parts. One thing is that all the judicial systems that existed in the High Court in India before the advent of the British. So all those judicial systems we had to find out right from Vedic times. Secondly, the second part of the exhibition was the Supreme Court, the Federal Court. Federal Court came under Government of India Act of 1935 and started functioning in 1937. And the Privy Council, which was the apex court, because there was no Supreme Court at that time. So highest court was Privy Council in London. So he said we'll divide the exhibition into two parts. Now to find out what are the exhibits that can come into the first section, that is judiciary otherwise than Supreme Court and Recorders, Supreme Court and Federal Court and Privy Council. So we had to go to every state where there is a high court, which is from the British time, pre-independence. And we both traveled together. During the travel, I came to know Gorakshakar as a man, not as a curator, but as a man. Very simple person. He would wash his own clothes, and his food habits were also very easy. And he would, at a particular point of time, he'll go to sleep. He will not stress himself. But in the morning, he is ready up and immediately starts his work. So that's how we started the work. Now, in the process, next slide, please. So during in the section of Vedic times, we found out that it was a Yajnavalkya Smriti, which we found out in the Indian Museum in Calcutta. So this being a Supreme Court exhibition, you had to just write a letter saying that you send it, and the Indian Museum immediately sent it. So this is the Yajnavalkya Smriti. We had also kept Manu Smriti, Ishwaku, Narada. So there are so many different Smritis which are there, but I've just selected this Yajnavalkya Smriti because it's in very good condition. Next, please. Yes. Now this is the chair which was there in the Supreme Court of Bombay, and this is the chair which we'll also find. We come to the museum part, and unfortunately, although this chair was lying in the High Court in various. After I got it spruced up, I requested many of my judges to use it actually for sitting there. But the seat is, they said that no, it is too tall, our legs will hang, etc. And unfortunately, this was never used. But I thought that I will make use of this. So this particular chair was there, also kept in the Supreme Court exhibition as one of the contributory from the Bombay High Court. Next, please. Yes. Now, this is the photograph of the first sitting. Actually, after the swearing in, this is a photograph of the first batch of judges of the Federal Court.
1936.
Sorry? Are you telling me anything? Yes. So this is the photograph of the Federal Court. You will see the three judges which are sitting in the middle. On the left hand side is Justice M.R. Jaikar, who was directly taken from the bar. In the middle is Chief Justice Maurice Guire, who came from England, and on his left is Justice Shah Suleiman, who was the Chief Justice of Allahabad High Court, straight away taken on Federal Court. Now, Federal Court was not an appeal court; it was a court where you could only come to that court if there is any dispute between the provinces. If you need any interpretation of the Government of India Act, so that was the Federal Court which was created. So this is a photograph. People were sitting in the row, justices of various high courts in that particular group. Next, please. Next, I think the slide keeps on coming here. Yes. Now, Federal Court had a very short existence in 1947. We have here the photograph of Justice Arijal 25th January 1950, and thereafter, 26th January 1950, when the Constitution came in, he became the first Chief Justice of India. Incidentally, the Federal Court used to sit in the Parliament House. So also the Supreme Court used to sit in the House. 1957, before this particular building was constructed. Next, please. Yes. Now, as I said, Privy Council was the highest court at that point of time before 1950, and therefore Privy Council had also a dress code. This particular cap was worn by the Privy Councillor not in the courtroom but while going outside, and on the right hand side you see the robes of the Privy Councillor, and they used to of course wear wigs and everything, and this particular robes etc. originally came from Justice Mullah's, it was loaned by Justice Mullah's heirs. Next, please. Now, some of the photograph, again, the slide is coming, please. Yeah. Some of the photographs which were brought to the Supreme Court exhibition in the first category, where now, for example, this is a photograph of Sarojini Naidu, the governor of United Province, with the judges of Allahabad High Court. The photograph is of 1948. You can see all the judges are wearing wigs, but that was only for this photograph. The wigs discontinued quite some time ago, whether or not permitting, etc. And now, after we are independent, there was no use. So, but this is a photo for the sake of photograph. They're not only wearing wigs, but they are wearing ceremonial dress. It's a black and white photograph, but the gown that they are wearing is a red gown. So this is the photograph. Next, please. Now, Patna High Court also contributed to the exhibition by sending the wig, the cover of the wig on the left, and the wig box of Justice S.K. Das, who was Patna High Court judge, became the Chief Justice there, then came to Supreme Court and became Chief Justice of India also for a short while. Next, please. Yes. Now, again, it was decided by the Bombay High Court that they will celebrate 150 years of the Bombay High Court with an exhibition. Now, this is the third person who I must mention who is responsible again for converting from collector to a curator. It was decided to hold the exhibition again in the same central courtroom, and the exhibition was to be held in 2010. The preparation started in 2011. A request was made to Gorakshakar. By that time, he had retired from the Prince of Wales Museum. He was staying quite far from Bombay. He had become old.
Hello? Jaikar sir, your mic is muted. Hello sir, your mic is on mute.
Is it okay now?
Yes,
Hello?
sir, perfect. Yeah.
Okay. So this is a photo of that particular event of inaugural of this particular exhibition. And when I said that I'll do the curating, the judges were surprised because none of the judges were there when I did the 125-year thing. But my friend, Justice Sawak Wajivda, who knows me very well and he knows my interest, etc., he said that if Rajan says that he will do the exhibition, he will do it. Just leave it to him. And that's how the exhibition happened. And exhibition was visited by some of the VIPs, and they appreciated it to the
Yeah,
extent
it's okay.
that the
Yeah.
exhibition was extended twice. Next, please. Next slide. Yeah. Again, the slide is coming. Can you remove this slide? Yes. Yes. Now, this is a slide where you get a little glimpse of the central courtroom. It looks like a palace, and there is an assembly of so many VIPs. That is, from the left is the governor Shankar Narayana. Then there is Justice Sarosh Kapadia, the then Chief Justice of India. Then I am there as a curator. Then next to that is the Prime Minister Manmohan Singh. Next to that is the Supreme Court judge, the second senior Supreme Court judge. Again, the slide is, yeah, yes. Then behind that is Salman Khurshid, the law minister. Then Justice Mohit Shah, the Chief Justice. And on the right is the Chief Minister, Prithviraj Chavan of Bombay. Now I'm explaining to them the exhibition there. Can I have the next slide, please? Yes. This is the President of India, who also visited. That is in the central courtroom, and I'm being introduced by the Chief Justice, and I'm asking them to take their seats so that I can explain to them the exhibition. Next, please. This is how the exhibition looked. In the central courtroom, there is a viewing gallery where all the important trials, members of public, including the three trials of Lokmanya Tilak, could be viewed from the viewers gallery. So this is a picture of the exhibition from the viewers gallery, and you can see all the various panels, etc., which are there in the exhibition. Next, please. Now then, of course, after the exhibition was done, I told Justice Mohit Shah that I have been associated with two exhibitions, 125 years and 150. When High Court celebrated 175 years, 99% I will not be around, or at least not capable of doing anything. Why are we showing this artifact, our beautiful artifacts, every 25 years? Why don't we set up a museum? And Justice Mohit Shah said, go ahead and do it. Now, there was internal resistance from some of the judges that we are telling the government that we want more space, and now you're going to sacrifice one courtroom for a museum. What is the necessity? Justice Mohit Shah put his foot down and said, you go ahead. The museum work was going on. I was working with the PWD workers, etc. And suddenly I got a message from Chief Justice that the Prime Minister is coming. So Peter, finish off with the exhibits, and he is coming to open it on 14th of February 2015. So day and night the workers had to do it. Luckily, I just stay opposite to the High Court, so I could even at 12 o'clock in the night go and see how the work was going on. And with great difficulty, we managed to finish that work before 14th of February, because we had set a date of 12th February. Because on 13th February, the security dogs, etc., will come in and they will move inside the exhibition area. So you can't do a thing. So they will come with their metal detectors and everything. So by 13th, exhibition was ready, and this is the thing that I'm showing it to the Prime Minister. Next slide, please. Now you will see here that out of just my imagination, I created a mock courtroom. I said there are artifacts which are available. How a courtroom would have been there in the year 1900? Just imagination. We'll see a white patch on the top. That is actually a cloth fan, because High Court this particular building was constructed in 1878. The electricity came almost around 1895. Imagine British judges wearing wigs and sitting in the court. It must be so stuffy. So what was the ventilation? There was no electricity, so no fans. So the only way the ventilation was there was through the cloth fans. And I found out on the second floor of the High Court, in all the courts where the string of the cloth fan would be there, because the person who is constantly pulling that string would be sitting outside the court. So I found out that. So out of some of the images that I had on lithograph, I created a cloth fan. At the same time, after the electricity came in, why 1900? Because 1900 is time when the cloth fan were about to be taken away and electricity was to come. This picture you can see a little handi there. Now that handi, of course, now I've got an electric light, but those handis had gas connection. Otherwise, what is the source of light, particularly in central courtroom? If you don't have put on any light, it is very dark. This is a courtroom on the ground floor, and this courtroom, which is a museum, is on the ground floor. So the chair which we had shown in the Supreme Court, the Bombay High Court chair, that has been now put on the stage as one of the chairs. Of course, in this picture, you don't see the fan. I managed to get 4 wooden blade fans from Chor Bazaar, same in look and actual genuine old and working. So this is 1900 is a year of transition. I even had put my personal typewriter out of my collection of 1905. But then since it was just lying there, I had to take it away. And my friend Rajiv Patil gave his father's typewriter, which is now displayed in the museum. So this is how the museum must have looked in the year 1900. Next slide, please. Next slide. This is a cross museum, where on the left hand side is the mock courtroom, and these are here the panels. Then you can see some elevated frames which are containing the starters, and there is a little string which goes up. It was a very funny thing when the Prime Minister visited. He saw the string and he knew that the string touches the cloth fan, and it was written there, "Do not touch." So he actually took my permission to touch it and wave it. And he was pulling it as if he was flying a kite in Ahmedabad. I told him that please do it slowly because there is a pulley from which it is coming, and pulley is not capable of taking because this particular cloth fan is very heavy. So anyway, that was a little funny incident that happened. Yeah, so this is how the Bombay High Court Museum is. It is open to public right now, of course, because of the COVID condition. But when it becomes normal, any member of public from Monday to Friday can see it between the court hours, that is 11 to 5 o'clock. And I would strongly welcome anybody to see it. I will be the person to take a group of persons through the exhibition. Next, please.
I'll just share the video clip of the Bombay High Court Museum.
Yes, please do.
Just give me a second.
Sure.
Is this visible? Just a little reaction on what you saw. There was a cannon gun also, and that cannon gun was lying for years together in the compound. Of course, it is one of the guns which must have been taken out after the demolition of the fort wall in 1864. But then I decided that I'll introduce this into the exhibition itself. The question was, how do I put it? And you will not believe, in Chor Bazaar, I find a completely appropriate stand on which this gun can fit, absolutely without any modification. So this was absolutely a lucky break, and that's how it is kept in the museum as a sort of a exhibit to
take its antiquity almost to the beginning of the High Court itself. Next, please. Now, the association with Mr. Gorakshakar continued. We had a fantastic exhibition which was done in Asiatic Society by the Asiatic and Town Hall in 1992, and this is the place where it is the stage of the Town Hall on which it was decided that Pathare Prabhus, the community to which I belong, being one of the earliest immigrants to Bombay, how their houses must have looked in the 19th century. So Gorakshakar suggested that we will have live models. So on the left hand side is the veranda, on the right hand side is the kitchen. And you will see in the left hand side, I am sitting there, my wife is sitting there, my daughter is there, and my nephew is there. So this is the family. And they are actually doing something. And in the kitchen also, something is being done. The idea was that people who visit the exhibition, they wanted to know, because since the kitchen was shown, there were so many utensils, they wanted to know what it is called. So instead of putting a label there, we decided that I and my wife will explain to them what exactly is this. So I am wearing my Pathare Prabhu dress of the 19th century. So is my wife wearing a 9-yard sari, and we sat there as live models. It was a fantastic idea by Gorakshakar. Next, please. Yes. Now, immediately experience, the exhibition started following, and people wanted to have, whenever there was an exhibition, they would contact me. Now, there is a society called the Bombay Incorporated Law Society, which is a society of the solicitors to which I belong. Now, they themselves were celebrating, the society was celebrating 100 years. Now, in order to celebrate that, I was requested by the president of the society to hold an exhibition. Of course, this exhibition was my collection of fiscal philately. That means everything to do, which is not a postal philately, but everything to do with court fee and other stamps which are not postal stamps and which are usually used on documents, etc. in the court, and as well as property document like sale deeds, etc. I set up an exhibition of that. And here you see the Chief Justice of the Bombay High Court, Justice M.B. Shah, is viewing the exhibition, who came to open it, and I'm showing it to him. Next, please. This was also a very interesting exhibition. This is an exhibition of Bombay Port Trust. Bombay Port Trust made a request to the Asiatic Society, where I was the vice president at that time, that they would like to have their annual general meeting, the 125th annual general meeting in the society, because that was their tradition, and therefore the meeting was going to be held there. So they requested, why don't we have an exhibition? So the panel that you see behind is my exhibition of picture postcards of old Bombay, and as a reply to the president, I am telling them about the exhibition in the town hall. That was done in the town hall, the Darbar hall of the town hall. Next, please. Then again, there was an exhibition. David Sassoon Library asked me that why don't you hold an exhibition in their premises and of something which is unusual. So normally people see the photographs and picture postcards, but I showed my exhibits of lithographs, engravings, etchings, etc. And even very rare photographs which are generally not to be seen. Yes. And this particular exhibition was also opened by Mr. Ranganathan, the then Chief Secretary of Government of Maharashtra. And I'm explaining to him the thing. So this was the exhibition which was held in the year 2000. Next, please. The Supreme Court exhibition which was held, it was decided by the Supreme Court that it should go to all the high courts, a portion of the exhibition, because that entire exhibition had something from each high court. So those artifacts which were there from Bombay High Court, which were loaned to the Supreme Court exhibition, were brought back, and along with other artifacts, an exhibition of the traveling exhibition of the Supreme Court was held, so that the people in Bombay who could not attend the exhibition in Delhi could get a little glimpse of this. And therefore, I had that good opportunity of curating this in the Prince of Wales Museum in Kumaraswamy Hall. And here the Governor Alexander opened the exhibition, and we have the Chief Minister at that time, Mr. Vilasrao Deshmukh, who was also there. And the picture on the right hand side shows a little glimpse of what the exhibition was like. Next, please. Then Wilson College, I've been a alumni of Wilson College, and whenever there is an exhibition, again I am summoned. So there was an exhibition to celebrate 200 birth anniversary of Dr. John Wilson, which was there in the Wilson College itself. And on that occasion, SM Krishna is giving me the memento, which is in the Wilson College itself in the year 2004. Next, please. Now comes a very big exhibition. This was an exhibition to celebrate 175 years of Bombay University. Now, I had no direct connection with that exhibition, but the exhibition committee, which was formulated of historians, etc., from the alumni of Bombay University, at some point of time, they realized that unless they have a curator, this exhibition may not go further. They had the artifacts, everything, but to assemble it into an exhibition, and the time was running short. So immediately I was contacted, and I took the initiative with the help of all the historians, etc., and we set up the exhibition, and it was inaugurated by the President of India, Mr. Abdul Kalam, in the year 2005. Next, please. Surprisingly, the exhibition was kept for almost a year. But I don't know whether there was proper publicity, whether people could see it. So the Prime Minister, when he came for the convocation function in the convocation hall, he was also brought to the exhibition, and Manjiri Kamath is there and I am there, both of us from the exhibition committee. We escorted him and showed him the various aspects of the exhibition. Next, please. Eventually, all the good things have to end. So for the closing of the exhibition, we had a different president, Mrs. Pratibha Patil, who was president by then. She came to the Bombay University, and I had the privilege of taking her through the exhibition. And presently, I'm showing her the panel of illustrious alumni of the Bombay University. Next, please. Now coming to my other interest, which is Shammi Kapoor. I have been a great fan of Shammi Kapoor from my school days. I used to bunk school and watch some of his movies like Jungli and Professor and all that. And I was while I was doing this, I did not start collecting anything. But for almost 45 years, I've been going to Chor Bazaar. And they said, "Saab, abhi aapko old Bombay ke upar dene ke liye kuch nahi, aapke paas sab hai. Aap kuch naya line chalu karo." So I said, "Naya line means what?" They said, "Saab, film ka chalu karo. There are a lot of film material, memorabilia which keep on coming in." Then I decided, film ka kya chalu karu? Then I remembered Gorakh Shakar. Gorakh Shakar said that whenever you are starting a new collection, there are certain parameters. First parameter is that you choose a very small subject. If you are a stamp collector, you don't aspire to collect the stamps of the world. You take a very small subject, not even stamp of India. Stamps of India between, say, 1875 to 1890, something like that. So I decided that I'm going to only concentrate on Shammi Kapoor. So Devanand ka, I said, I'm not interested in Devanand. I'll only concentrate on Shammi Kapoor. Then I had to see what kind of a material is available. What do I collect? And then I saw that there were posters, there were lobby cards, there were songbooks, even there were duplicate censor certificates, and so many other, and photographs, then artworks. Then I started collecting. And once I get into a hobby, then I literally dive into it. So ultimately, I started doing it. I used to visit Shammi Kapoor ji at his house. By that time, he was unfortunately on wheelchair. He had to go for his to the Bombay, to the Bridge Candy Hospital for dialysis Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So ultimately, when by that time, museum had opened Prince of Wales Museum had opened a new venture that they will give the space to any collector, and the collector should bring his artifacts and put it. No finance involved, but museum will give curatorial help like restoration, giving frames, etc. And I was the first person who was contacted by Mr. Mukherjee, who you see it in the picture on the left. And I decided that I'm going to do Shammi Kapoor memorabilia. Now, when it was decided, I told Shammi Kapoor that I want to do it. He said, "You do it, but do it. We keep the opening on Saturday or Sunday, because these are the 2 days that I'm not in the hospital. Otherwise, I'm very cranky." So we decided to put it on a Saturday in the year 2011 in November, but unfortunately in August, 14th August, Shammi Kapoor left this world. So now instead of Shammi Kapoor himself opening the exhibition, it became a sort of a tribute to him. So with my contacts, I contacted Rakesh Om Prakash Mehra, who I was not aware was also a Shammi Kapoor fan. So he agreed to do the inaugural, and this is the photograph just after the inaugural function is over. On the right hand side is Shammi Kapoor's son, Aditya, and this is the Shammi Kapoor Memorabilia exhibition in Prince of Wales Museum. Next, please. Next, please. Yes, this is a cross section of the exhibition that you see. There are people who are going through there are horizontal frames in which there are all the songs which are kept. Then in the vertical frame there are photographs, etc. And exhibition was very liked by so many people. Shammi Kapoor's family also, like his wife Neela Devi and daughter, came in, but they said we are in mourning. We'll come one afternoon quietly and see it. So I had the privilege of showing it to them also. So this is another exhibition which I curated, which is little unusual because this is something to do with the films. Next, please. Now, what did I learn out of all this? That when you have to set up a museum, it is very easy because even my community, Pathai Prabhu, they say that you have got so many artifacts of the community. Why don't you set up a museum? So I told him what are the parameters. If you satisfy these parameters, we'll hold over. First thing is that the museum has to have a permanent and convenient location. When I was doing the High Court Museum, I was told by the Chief Justice that we on the 4th floor of a adjoining High Court building, there is a big hall where you can do it. I said no. It has to be in a heritage wing. It has to be on the ground floor. It has to have, and it should be open to public. People who have nothing to do with the court should be able to come into the court, see the exhibition and go away. And it should be something which is permanent. You can't keep on like an exhibition. You can't keep on changing. So the place has to be permanent. It should be a convenient location so that people will come and see and go away. Second thing is you must have proper funds. Setting up a museum is not setting up an exhibition. It is permanent. So it requires maintenance. There are artifacts like paper, etc., which deteriorate in Bombay's weather. So you have to constantly maintain them. Then apart from that, there are administrative expenses. And also you must have a budget for purchasing artifacts. And so this particular, if the funds are there sufficiently, then a museum can be set up. Next is qualified curator or a director. Now, Prince of Wales Museum has a director. That's a big one. But in a museum of the level of High Court or suppose the Pathai Prabhu Museum, all you need is a good curator who knows how to set up the museum and who knows how to take care of it while the museum is running. Next is conservation laboratory. As I mentioned, that you can get artifacts of metal, stone, paper, parchment, wood, plastic, anything. And every time that you get these artifacts, they may not be in prim and proper condition where you can display. They may require little repair. They may require little restoration. So you must have a small conservation laboratory where all these small processes can be done. Next is setting up a museum, again, like collection. You can't do a museum of everything. Museum must have a theme. If I'm doing a Pathai Prabhu museum, Pathai Prabhu community is the theme. So where are the artifacts? Setting up a museum is a very easy job for the curator. Who is going to provide the artifacts? So artifacts have to be there. They have to be procured. Sometimes you have to buy them. People may donate. That's a different matter. But not only you must have, therefore you must have a proper theme or a subject. Next, storage space. All that you receive, you cannot show it at one go. But at the same time, there are certain key objects which have to remain there all the time. But there are certain objects which can be circulated. The reason is simple. If you visit the museum, why would you visit it again to see the same thing? So after a particular point of time, some of the artifacts have to be circulated, and for which you need a storage space, which is again has to be such a proper storage place that in the storage, because of dampness or otherwise, the artifacts will not get disturbed, and therefore that. Next thing is the administrative staff. Depending upon the size of the museum, the staff has to be there. There has to be a curator. There has to be proper maintenance people, electrician, etc. Whatever are required, which are the day-to-day necessities, that has to be there. Then, if somebody has to make little money out of museum, of course, High Court Museum is free and they cannot make any money. But then a lot of people like certain objects in the museum and would like to have a replica. So you must have a small museum shop where, depending upon the what people like, those particular artifacts can be made into small items which can be sold as keychains or whatever. So you need a museum. Then there has to be a publication department. People want catalogs. People want newsletters. What is happening in the museum, etc. So that publication may be online or physical. Then there has to be publicity and outreach. The museum is not a dormant institution. It requires publicity so that people can come there. It has to have an outreach program. You can invite children to make sketches. You can invite. There are so many. You can hold classes, etc. But that depends on the size of the museum. But there has to be a small outreach program. And finally, the security. Because once the museum becomes popular and they know that certain items in the museum are absolutely unique, it is quite likely that there can be pilfered, damaged, etc. So if somebody satisfies all these attributes, I am prepared to set up a museum for them. Next, please. Yeah. So, so these are the three people who came into my life: Mr. Gorakshakar, Justice Sujata Manohar, and Justice Mohit Shah, who actually turned me from a collector, as I said, into a curator and a setup of the museum. I'm very thankful to the Vidyalankar Institute of Technology and particularly Dr. Amit Oak, Chief Operating Officer, Professor and Head of the Department, NMS. I'm also thankful to Mitali Gangal for moderating and saying nice words about me, and also Dr. Naina Tadwalkar and Milind Talwalkar, who made this webinar possible. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for introducing our audience to the thrill of being a collector of antiquities and artifacts. I'm certain that your talk has inspired many to take this up as a hobby. It was a great presentation, and I found all your collections very interesting and impactful. I'm sure that our viewers also loved it. Now, I would like to take some questions posed by our audiences. So, the first question is would you like to narrate a story associated with any of the objects from your collection?
I will go to the Shammi Kapoor this, because collecting that was quite onerous. Now, when I did research on Shammi Kapoor, I found that he had acted in 58 Hindi films as hero. And out of that, first 18 films were complete flops. In those days, the definition of flop was a film which does not do 25 weeks is called a flop. And what flops in Bombay flops all over India. So therefore, after it is declared that a particular film is flop, the distributors, producers, etc., they dump all the publicity and other material, and it becomes very impossible to get. I was quite fascinated to get a photograph or a lobby card of the film Thokar. Now, I have not seen this film at all because this film was not available. I am told that the film reel was burnt and it is gone. But Thokar's one lobby card, which is the only one which I have come across, is something which I really cherish, because of course that is Shammi Kapoor in his old days of when he was slim and he had moustache and central parting and all those things. So that is the one object which I was so elated when I got it, and the dealer came and told me. Of course, I didn't show much interest in it because otherwise he'll immediately hike up the price. So I said, "Chalo, theek hai, chalo de do." So I got that. But that was something which really touched my heart.
Okay, that was simply amazing and interesting to know about this experience. Another question which I would like to ask is which object would you like to see come to life from your exquisite collection?
Come to, sorry?
Which object would you like to see to come to life from your exquisite collection?
I didn't get you. Come to life.
Any object which you would like to see alive from your collection?
Yeah. I would say I would like to see an object which is not in my collection.
Okay.
I got some German porcelain figurines of our mythological gods. I'm still searching for that one particular porcelain statuary of Lord Ganesha. I've seen it with a couple of people, but I have not got it. But out of that, I have a Ram Panchayatan, which is in pristine condition and made in Japan, for all you know. And that particular set is very difficult to get. Ram, Sita, three brothers and Hanuman.
Okay, great. We have another question which has been asked by Dr. Amitok sir. He has asked, is there a need to understand how to visit the museum?
The High Court Museum?
Any museum, it seems.
No, any museum. First thing is that it depends on what is the level of the museum. Now we have got a virtual museums also. So there are museum tours. So it is better that unless you are an expert on a particular aspect, if you are a general visitor, it is better to take the museum tour so that the expert will explain to you different aspects. Now I'll tell you that some of the museum that I visited, it is just physically not possible even if you stay for a month to visit the whole museum. So when we went to Paris and went to Louvre, I asked my wife what you would like to see. She said mummy, and I said I would like to see statuary. So eventually we ended up only seeing two parts, and that too in a hurried way because we had to catch the bus to go away. So in 2 hours, she was in the mummy section and I was in the statuary section. So
Okay.
this is what we have to see the museum, because if it's a small museum like Raja Keka or something, then you can see it in a couple of hours. But if you're talking about British Museum or V&A or Louvre or something, for months together you can remain there and you'll not have seen the entire museum.
Sure, sir. Yeah. One more question we can take. It is from Parag Redkar. He has asked, is there anything specific, a tip or trick to protect stamps in collection at an individual level?
First thing is that the stamp has to be, there are two types of collections. One thing is mint stamps. That means the stamp which is not used on cover, it has got its original gum, and that too it should be kept in a atmosphere which is not moist, because otherwise whatever surface you keep it will get stuck. And other is stamps which are used on cover. Those stamps are very interesting because the entire cover with postal cancellations tells you the story of the stamp which has traveled from where to where, and it's a subject of research for postal history. So, but to keep both these items being papered, you have to see that they are away from moisture. Either you have a dehumidifier in the room where you are keeping this paper collection, or you can have if you can afford and your collection is valuable, you can have 24/7 air conditioner with the optimum temperature of between 16 and 18 degrees, kept 24/7, 365 days.
Thank you, sir, for answering that. I think we can take one last question from Zaheen Idrisi. And as I said, you have really motivated our audience. So this question is related to that. Can you please enumerate in short the do's and don'ts of artifact collections or antiquities, especially to the youths who are developing interest in this area?
Yeah. First thing, as I said, that you cannot collect everything on a particular subject. You have to choose a small subject, and first you have to ask yourself. In my opinion, every child is a collector. He will collect. If you see your own childhood, maybe the boys would collect some. They will collect Matchbox labels, cigarette packets, which I used to do because it was coming free. It was lying on the road. You have to pick it up. As well as the girls are concerned, maybe pins, etc. There are any number of objects which the collectors can collect. So it has to come from within.
Thank you so much. Thank you once again for giving us your valuable time from your busy schedule. I would also like to thank our management for their rock solid support to make this event a great success.
Yeah. So particularly in India, what happens is that when a child starts collecting, he is not encouraged, unfortunately, by the parents, quite a few of them, and not by the teachers. We don't have a hobby class in school. So what happens is that a child is collecting haphazardly. Maybe the parents are taking little interest. When the exams come, he is told that now keep everything away, study for your exam. This is all for the vacation. Fortunately, that did not happen with me because I never studied. So my parents were very liberal in allowing me to do even a day before the exam, I was still going through my collection. So there has to be a parental and also support from the schools, colleges, so the hobby will continue. Otherwise, once you are told that you keep it in the cupboard because of the exam, thereafter you'll never open the cupboard. A day will come, you say, now I have grown up out of this, I would like to dispose of, and it goes away. I will tell you, I have a book, I have a magazine where there is a Button Society AGM. Can you imagine an annual general meeting of a button society? Now, when you say button, you start wondering whether it is a shirt button or a pant button or something. No, there are buttons of military dresses, etc. There are any number of buttons.
Sir, your mic is muted. Mic is muted, mic.
So this is what it is.
Okay.
You must have the practical.
Yeah, sure, sir. It was very interesting, and I am sure that our audiences can relate to this collection of artifacts from their childhood days.
I would
Mitali,
like.
I just have one question for sir.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask sir, I've heard about a concept called Living History Museum. What exactly is Living History Museum? You also, you can also share.
Now there are all sorts of museums which are coming up.
Okay.
Now there are at the same time, there are oral history museums. So what is not written oral, you take interviews of people, old people, and they will narrate you stories which are their personal experience, not recorded anywhere. So there are different type of museums which are coming up. So it could be one of them.
I'll just comment. In fact, I had done a project on tribal museum where I had conceptualized that museum as a living history museum, suggesting that the tribals, the people, visitors get to see the actual life of the tribals without, of course, disturbing them. But their day-to-day life, their culture, lifestyle, traditions, and all that. So in short, I would say that is what we call the living history museum, because
Thank
those
you.
are the living traditions.
Thank you. You may continue.
Yeah. I would like to actually ask Mr. Jaikar about his experience of doing a cameo in Manto movie, because there I remember Mr. and Mrs. Jaikar had dressed up in their traditional Patari Prabhu costume. So how did that happen and how was the experience?
Which is it?
Manto, Nandita Das movie.
Nandita Das is a bigger friend. There was an instance which was, I was not aware that M.R. Jaikar was invited at a party to celebrate the independence, that is pre-independence night at Royal Bombay Yacht Club. And that party was thrown by Ashok Kumar. And in that party scene which was there in Manto is also there. Nargis is trying to, Nargis's mother, Jadanbai, is trying to promote Nargis for a role in Mughal-e-Azam. And that is the party where that particular scene is there. And since Nandita said, why don't you become a barrister Jaikar? I said, okay, I'll become barrister Jaikar. So with virtually, of course, there was a little makeup and where it was a suit, whether it for that time suit. So we had a very short thing, a very few dialogues, and then we are just moving into the party. So that was good. That was one day shooting. So that was fine.
Yeah, thank you. Mitali, are we taking any more questions? You're on mute, Mitali.
Mitali.
Yes. I think we are done with all the questions. I have taken.
Yeah, I had a couple of words because people have a different concept of what is antiques. Normally, we believe antiques is and antiques we believe is very expensive. Rare and antique are two different things. I'll give you a simple example. If you have no contact with Times of India and you have not preserved it, can you get me a Times of India 1 week before? A Times of India 1 week before? Not possible. So it is only 1 week old. It is rare, but it may not be expensive. And there are antiquities where there are 1,000-year-old coins, etc., which not all coins are very expensive. So antique and rarity are two different things. In particularly in stamps, there are certain, I got in my collection, there are at least 20 items which are one in the world. But that doesn't mean that they are so expensive. But think of a stamp like the British Guiana stamp 1856. That is also one in the world, but it has got provenance, it has got story behind it. So therefore, that stamp is the costliest stamp ever. Just now, it was sold for some millions of dollars in about 4-5 years ago. So everything which is old is not expensive, and everything which is new is not cheap. The rarity depends on how many pieces are available at any given point of time.
Yes, sir. That was amazing, and it was really good to see you see all the photographs of ropes and caps and exhibitions and many other things which were in the presentation. So it was really great to have you with us. Thank you once again for giving us your valuable time from your busy schedule. I would also like to thank our management for their rock solid support to make this event a great success. My heartfelt thanks to Dr. Nayana Tadwalkar ma'am and Dr. Amitok sir for organizing such an interactive and informative session for all of us, and also for giving me this opportunity to be a part of this V Talk series. I also extend my utmost gratitude towards all the people who are involved either directly or indirectly to make this happen. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Jaikar.
Thank you. All the best for your future programs.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.